Hello and welcome to this third part of the mobility training series. We're going to be working through a full body mobility training today. You will need no equipment, so we're just going to be working with the body weight, with the body's movements and just feeling into the body, into the muscles, into the joints. I've taken off my shoes already, so go ahead and do so if you haven't yet, because we'll be doing it either on socks or barefoot. Like I said, we're going to be doing a full body workout today. And the training will focus on boxing movements and the joints that you need for boxing, such as the wrists, the shoulders, very injury-prone places, especially in the shoulders, catching impact, the hands, the wrists, even the twisting of the torso. So we're going to start with some work on that and then move down in the body as well to get a nice complete training today. We're going to combine exercises and relaxation just to get some flow throughout the body, allow the joints to recover and strengthen. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got some water nearby, so make sure you're set up nicely for yourself for this 45-minute/50-minute training. Hopefully feeling really relaxed after, nice and loose in the joints and with some strengthened areas. Let's start standing today. We're going to start with some neck, just to kind of ground ourselves, release some tension already in that area. So go ahead and fold your hands behind your back and let's pull the head to one side. So just drop your left ear down to your left shoulder, already feeling some tightness here maybe. Relaxing the right shoulder, taking a few breaths here just to start and arrive today. So just relaxing, starting to relax the right shoulder, starting to feel some stretch on the side of your neck on the right side. You don't have to reach your left shoulder with your left ear. You can just let your head dangle to the side. Starting today's training with some neck release. Maybe you're like me and you have a lot of tension in the neck. So just make sure to really let yourself hang here. Great training to do after a boxing workout, just to recover. Will give you less chance of muscle pain and sharp little joint pains. Let's take 2 big breaths here. I'm just holding my hands at the back. I'm not pulling anything, just kind of holding my own hand. Let's move through to the other side. Very slowly, take your time. We're just kind of warming up the neck. Right ear drops to right shoulder. Relaxing the left shoulder as well. Kind of noticing the difference already between both sides. That's our aim for today as well. Just to notice certain sensations in the body, tightness, stiffness, kind of limited range of motion maybe in some parts. Not to judge, but to explore and see what we can improve or work on. It's normal to hold tension in your joints. Some people have it in their knees or hips, tightness in the shoulders. So it's great that you're here with me to work on that tightness and hopefully let some of it go. Few breaths here. We're going to be doing some more active things today as well, so really taking this moment. Let's move side to side with the ears. So just moving at your own pace through the side of the neck here, making sure the shoulders stay relaxed. You can do this slowly or quickly, whatever feels good. Love starting with the neck, just to kind of set the tone for the rest of the training. Okay, come to a halt. Let's start making some, I'm just going to release my arms next to my body. Let's start making some half circles here over the chest, already lengthening the back of the neck here. Still working onto the sides, especially with boxing, your shoulders tend to go up to your ears very fast. Your cover, of course. So it's great to lengthen those areas to avoid cramps there or kind of neck pains that lead to migraines. Taking some half circles here. There's a lot of nerves in your neck as well, running up to the skull, to the brain. So just giving those some attention as well. All right, let's get down to the mat. You can sit cross-legged this way. You can stretch the legs out in front if that's more comfortable. We're gonna relax in the shoulders. You don't have to sit up straight. You can just kind of sit however you feel relaxed here. Let's drop the chin down to the chest and place the hands on the back of the head. So if you want to intensify this stretch, letting your elbows hang forward here, if you want to intensify this stretch, go ahead and put your hands under the base of your skull. So really at the start of your neck. We're just going to let ourselves hang forward here. Really lengthening between the shoulders, at the back of the neck, letting the chin hang all the way to the chest. Feeling that stretch between the shoulders, maybe in your back. This is a great posture stretch as well. If you've been standing or sitting a lot. Taking a few breaths. Seeing whatever comes up here in the body. The more you hang forward, the more intense it will be, but usually this one is quite easy to feel already. Right, so let's breathe in, and when we breathe out, we're going to push the elbows back and up. I'm going to come up all the way straight, breathe out, push the chest forward. And back down again, all the way. So let's make that length again. We're just working through the shoulders here and the neck, upper back. With the out breath, big push to the back, elbows come along, chest goes forward, chin goes up, and back down. I'm gonna go for 2 more. All the way up. From the elbows, push those shoulder blades together. And down. Let's go for one last one here. Breathing out, big push, chest to the front. And release. Maybe taking some shoulder turns here. You can really feel all the tight areas with these kind of movements. Maybe some turns to the front as well, kind of relaxing in the fingers here. Already feeling some results here in the neck. Feels a little bit more loose. Okay, let's start doing some more active movement here. We're going to start with a shoulder, chest, and wrist stretch slash exercise, because we are going to be moving dynamically through it. So let's get onto the knees. The hands go very wide. Let's start nice and wide, fingers to the outside. We're going to be working through the shoulders here, like I said, just to increase the range of motion and slowly kind of feel into them. So just drop your right shoulder down, take your head along with you, turning to the left. Left arm can stay bent at the elbow. So if you don't land here, that's fine. Keeping those hips above the knees. If you can land, just rest on the side of your head, feeling that stretch in your right arm, front of the right shoulder. You can kind of push into the left hand as well if you like, strengthening the wrist already a little bit. We're going to be working with the wrists in a minute. When we switch sides in a second, make sure to really lengthen that left arm, turning the head to the right. So let's go, lengthen that left arm, bending into the right, taking that nice stretch all the way down. And the breath, of course. Letting the neck relax. This is a great one for after training. Really loosening up. Let's go for the first side again and just move through this in your own tempo, making sure the feet are relaxed, and every time you switch, just take the head with you and pushing into those hands, strengthening those hands and wrists. Of course, you can play around with how wide your hands are here. Make sure your hips and knees are comfortable. We're getting some lower back action here as well, because the tailbone is high up. Keeping it full body. Let's go for 2 more on each side, wherever you are. Making sure this is more like a dance kind of movement than a workout. You want to keep it as flowy as possible to keep the relaxation in the joints and the muscles, to make sure there's not too much engagement there. Coming back up to kneeling, taking some turns of the wrists. Whatever feels nice. Just warming up those wrists already. We're going to continue with some wrist exercises. Very necessary for any kind of sport, honestly, but especially boxing, of course. Make sure you're turning the other way as well. Getting some nice cracks, maybe. Okay, feel free to loosen them up a little bit if you know you have sensitive wrists. As with every exercise, try to feel into what feels okay to you. Nothing needs to hurt, but wrists can be a sensitive area for many, so that's perfectly normal. Let's put the hands out in front of us, spreading the fingers, already kind of dividing our weight over our whole hand, not just the wrist. I'm going to place them just under the shoulders here. And let's start making a small rocking movement back and forth, keeping the arms stretched. So we're just going to go to the front here, pushing into the fingers, pushing into the fingertips, and of course the palm of the hand, slowly moving back. So in reality, I'm moving from my hips here. We're just going to keep applying small pressure onto the hand and wrist in this way. Very consciously, noticing where the edge is here for you. Anything wrist and hand can feel a little uncomfortable, but this is perfectly normal. It's a very sensitive joint, which is why it's extra important to take care of them. So just keep kind of rocking back and forth. Make sure your hand keeps contact with the floor at all times. Arms stay stretched out. Maybe a light bend in the elbows. Rocking onto those wrists and back. Let's go for 3 more. So just kind of more playing around here, feeling into the wrists and hands. Okay, let's sit back onto those hips and just stretch the arms out in front for a small break before we keep going again. So maybe coming onto fingertips here as well, releasing the shoulders and the hands, maybe resting the head for a second here. If you want to take turns at the wrists, that's perfectly fine. I like to just lengthen through the fingertips here to get some release. These are the kind of strengthening exercises that are usually skipped because they can feel uncomfortable, but they just do so much in terms of strength and the kind of more conscious use of the joints. So when you throw a punch or you use your wrists in any way, you will use them more consciously through this kind of training. Let's walk the hands back up. And let's get onto the back of the hand. So let's put down all the fingers here, getting onto the back, and the more you move them close to the body, the less intense the stretch will be. Okay, so I'm going to start quite close to the knees. I can already feel some sensation here at the top of the wrist, making sure all the fingers stay in contact with the mat. Now that I feel a little bit more okay in this pose, I'm going to walk my hands out a little bit further in front. So keeping the arms nice and stretched, I'm just going to move back and forth, sitting down and back with my hips. So very controlled movements here. They can be very subtle. And of course, again, playing around with how far you want to go in this. And I would say sensation is good. If you're feeling any pain, just back off. Rocking back and forth very slightly. Maybe this one feels easier or less easy than the first one. Keeping the arms stretched. And just continuing with this rocking motion from now on. Feeling what it does to your hand and your fingers and your wrist, of course. Let's go for 2 more, back and forth. Okay, and release. Ooh, and especially in that release, this can feel not that great, honestly, but super beneficial. The more you do these kind of exercises, the more you can perform, the more you can recover. Let's go for 1 more. We're going to get onto the fists. So just put your fists in front of you under your shoulders the way you would punch. I'm just keeping my thumbs out. If you prefer to keep your thumbs in, just go ahead and do so. We're going to keep the fists, so we're going to point the fingers in towards each other, yeah? So we're making a fist in that direction. Let's go left and right onto the fists. Again, keeping contact with the mat, pushing into the fists, alternating. So when I go to the left, I'm really pushing into the right fist here. And of course, when I go to the right, really pushing into the mat, using those bent fingers. Alternating here, applying pressure on purpose, but just the right amount for you. Kind of moving from the shoulders here, keeping the arms straight, strengthening those hands, fists, wrists. Let's go for a couple of more. Great work. Such a sensitive joints, very prone to injury. Extra care. All right. Release the hands very slowly. Just open and let some blood get back into it. Maybe some release movement, whatever feels good. Okay. When you're ready again, just place your hands under your shoulders, getting into a tabletop position. We're going to do some scapular work here, which just means your shoulder blades. So we're going to push into the hands again. This is, again, a great tip, just to spread the fingers, divide the weight over the hand as well as the wrist. We're going to keep the arms straight throughout the movement, and we're just going to push all the way up and out through the shoulders. And when we lower again, we keep the arms straight, just letting the chest drop. So as opposed to a cat and cow where we really involve the lower back, try to just keep it to the upper back here. We're going to drop through the shoulders and push through the shoulders too, pushing those shoulder blades away from each other, creating space, strengthening those hands, of course, still. Let's see how low you can drop without bending your elbows. So really working through the shoulders here. Keep breathing. Arms stay straight. Shoulder blades come together and back, and then away from each other. Loads of space there in between. And I release those hands in a second. For now, a few more pushes, moving very gently. Gently and strongly. All right. Come to a standstill, releasing those hands again. And let's get on to the belly for the next one. We're going to do some swimmers next, which means we're going to be working with the shoulders. And the goal is really to see what your range of motion is already here. If you've done my in real life classes, you will know this movement. We're going to do a reach. So let's start with the left arm stretched out in front. And we're just going to drop the head down onto the right forearm, relaxing the feet and the legs, maybe wiggling side to side with the hips to get comfortable. If you want to take a look first at the movement, we're going to keep the left arm stretched out. We're going to move it up and back, really rotating through the shoulder. And you're going to have the tendency to lift the chest up. So just make sure your chest is staying down. Maybe this limits you a little bit in your movement, and that's perfectly normal. So go ahead and just feel into that left shoulder already. Maybe trying to reach something at the ceiling and the wall behind you. Swimming through that shoulder. This can feel a little tight maybe. Just making it as big as you can without lifting off the floor in your chest. If you want to work with the breath, you can breathe out, going back. Big reach all the way through the shoulder and the arm. And then breathing back in through the front. We'll go for a few more. We'll try to keep this relaxed, even though this is a strengthening movement. If you're really feeling this in the neck right now, maybe you want to hold back on how big you're making the movement and just stay a little smaller. Keep reaching through those fingers. Arms nice and stretched here. Staying with the breath, we're going to go for 3 more from the front. Big reach up, pushing that chest down into the floor. Taking a break at the front if you need to. Keeping the body relaxed. Keeping that right arm relaxed as well. I have a tendency to push on my right arm. And just working with whatever the shoulder wants here. Last one, big reach. All the way to the back and all the way back to the front. Great work. Before we start working with the other side, let's bring the left arm at a 90-degree angle next to us. We're just going to open up through the front of that shoulder after the strengthening exercise. So I'm just going to put it at a 90-degree angle here next to my body. You want to use the other hand to kind of roll onto, you can put your feet together and just roll onto your left hip. Maybe the right foot touches the floor at the back. Using that right arm to dose the amount of pressure you're putting on your left shoulder and wrist here. And elbow. Feeling that stretch at the front of the chest. Maybe letting your head hang. I like to just keep my head up a little bit, but that's a little bit more neck based. So choose your option. Pushing into the floor with your left hand. Pushing into the floor with your left elbow. Getting that nice opening with a breath. Nice opening at the front of the shoulder. Great one to passively increase range of motion here. When you are pulling back to punch, you want to have that big reach at the back that we're training right now, so you have a lot of momentum and a lot of time to really apply that strength. Last breath. Very gently rolling off that shoulder. Oof. And just stretch it out in front of you for a second if you like, or maybe next to the body. Taking a rest here, feeling into the left arm, the work we've just done. All right. Let's put the left forearm underneath our head. I love being supported this way. You just have so much space to focus on the movement you're doing. So really get comfortable here with the head, releasing the pressure off the neck. Again, maybe wiggling the feet or the hips before we start. This is not a punishment, so you can get comfortable. Let's stretch out the right arm in front of us, and let's start opening that shoulder to the back. Oof. Big breath. Just start feeling into that shoulder with the swimmer movement, keeping the left forearm to the floor, noticing if any part of your body is kind of aiding this movement. Just keeping the focus mentally and physically on your right shoulder, reaching big front, top, and back. You're going to always notice a small spot halfway where your range is a little smaller. That's perfectly fine and normal. Just keep reaching. Try to work with the biggest movements you can without then having the natural cheats that occur in the body, like lifting up the chest or turning in with the hips. And just notice how this feels to be moving in your shoulder this way. Breathing in to the back. Or whatever breathing feels good here. Just make sure you're not cramping up anywhere in this quite intense movement. Fully focused on that right shoulder, big reach. I'm noticing a lot less range here on the right. So just seeing the difference between sensations and range here on the other side. It's normal to have differences when it comes to that. Let's go for 3 more from the front. Keeping the feet relaxed. Keeping the movement as big as possible. Some good work today for the shoulders. Last one. And it's nice to combine these active movements with passive movements. Go ahead and take a break. So you can really get the benefit from both kinds of training and stretching. Let's get the right arm next to us at a 90-degree angle. Already pushing into the shoulder and the elbow a little bit. Go ahead and place your left hand next to you. Turning onto the shoulder slightly. So I'm just crossing my feet one over the other. My left foot feels okay to just touch the floor behind my right foot. I'm really using that left arm to dose how much I'm turning onto the right arm with my body weight. It feels okay here to let my head rest. Just choose whatever head option feels nice for you here. If you're comfortable enough, you could use the left hand to support yourself here, but it gets a little wonky for me when I do that. A few breaths, feeling into the right shoulder, pushing into the floor with your right hand. Allowing it to open. Maybe it starts to feel like it's losing a little bit of blood in the right arm. Just wiggle your fingertips if that's the case. 2 more breaths here. Keep the breaths nice and slow so you're really in recovery mode instead of high intensity training mode. Go ahead and roll off that right shoulder. Reaching it out in front of you. And just taking that rest here. Great work. Let's walk ourselves back up to hands and knees, tabletop. We're going to start working together with the rest of the body here now too. Maybe taking some turns, whatever feels good here. Really kind of loosened up, woken up the upper body now. Everything that tends to be quite tense, right? Shoulders and neck. Let's put the hands underneath the shoulders here. Tucking the toes in already. I'm going to go for a downward dog, waking up the back of the body. I'm going to breathe in. Again, spread your fingers. I'm going to breathe in, tucking the toes under, lifting up through the hips. Hands and arms nice and long. Dropping that head between the stretched arms. If your heels don't touch the floor, that's completely fine. Just make sure you're really kind of trying to dose that weight balancing the weight between your hands and feet. Relaxing in the shoulders, even though this is a more intense pose. Reaching up through your hips. And just dropping the knees back down here. I'm gonna give you 2 options. The first one is what we've just done. We're gonna kind of move back and forth here. You can choose how intense this is. So you can choose to move up and down through the knees, and then taking a little release here in between if you like. If you want some more strengthening, a little bit more intensity, you can move from your down dog pose to a high plank, pushing into those hands, and then pushing all the way up to the back. Okay, so just choose your option, and if you do start with the more intense one, you can always switch to the less intense one after, of course. That's no problem. Taking a big breath in, retucking the toes, pushing in through those hands and feet, lengthening the arms, lengthening the hamstrings. Really feeling those hamstrings today. Letting the head hang heavy, and then go ahead and choose your option. So wherever you are, dropping forward or down. Holding it for a second, and then all the way back up. Big push. Really strengthening those arms and shoulders with this one. But maybe more consciously than you would during a normal workout. Let's go for 2 more, wherever you are. So dropping down or forward. If you are choosing the more difficult option, pushing through the fingertips as well. Big breath out. All the way to the back. All right, quite intense this one. That's perfectly fine. Last one. So going down or to the front. And a last up. Nice. Staying up here, walking the hands towards your feet. Coming up to standing. Take your time. Rolling a little bit. Maybe releasing those wrists. Let's put the feet nice and wide. I'm going to go for a forward fold here. So let's start lengthening out through the lower back. Dangling those hands and arms. Kind of make sure you're nice and loose here. Maybe going side to side. Letting the head hang. Taking a few breaths. Feeling some blood coming back into the hands after the last one. And as you're kind of hanging here, quite weightless, just start feeling into the legs and the thighs, the feet. We're going to do some spinal roll-ups from here. Again, using those shoulders, but nice and weightless. Which might be a nice word to hear after the last exercise. So let's come to a pause in the middle. We're going to breathe in, bring those arms up overhead. Big stretch, like you're trying to grab the ceiling, and all the way down, lengthening the back. Let's go again. Big breath in. Reaching tall, maybe even on the toes. And all the way back down, head comes along. Let's go for a very slow one now. So rolling up through the spine. Hands are already coming up. Reaching out and up through the shoulder blades. Maybe coming onto those toes. And all the way back down. All right. Let's take a breath there. Let's grab a hold of the right leg with the left hand. All right, so we're going to go for our first twist here. If this is already opening up the back of your shoulder and kind of ensuring you're twisted in, you can pause here, grabbing a shin or a knee or even an upper leg, maybe an ankle. If you want more, you can go ahead and twist open to the front and to the ceiling. So I'm getting a hamstring stretch. I'm getting a shoulder opener. I'm getting a spinal twist. I'm getting that full body movement in. Big breaths. Let's go ahead and switch, grabbing that left leg with your right hand. Making sure the hips are quite straight, but it's natural to go a little bit to the left here. If this is enough for you, you could always place your hand on your back instead of twisting open. Pushing those hips back, feeling into those hamstrings, breathing. Not just for the head, but to relax the nervous system. Quite an intense one because it involves so many muscles and joints, making it very efficient too. So just keep breathing. Last time to the first side, twisting from the belly button, grabbing whatever suits you, maybe opening, maybe a hand on your lower back. Just identifying tight areas here. Breathing some life into them. Last time to the second side, reaching for that left leg, ankle, knee, wherever. And I like to just pull on it a little bit, making sure my back of my right shoulder opens, choosing your option for this last time. Taking a breath. Standing poses can be so intense, but again, very beneficial. And breathing out back to the front. Hanging here, let's move the feet in together. And let's just bend the knees as much as you like to be able to relax your upper body onto them. Okay, so maybe that's a lot, maybe that's not at all. Just choosing what works here, holding onto ankles, mat, maybe hugging it. So let's just lengthen that tailbone, lengthen the lower back. Of course, those hamstrings, maybe hugging yourself. If you're bent quite a lot, that should be okay. Taking a few breaths here. Such a great mix of intensity, strengthening, and relaxation. Self-care, as I like to call it. All right, let's work our way back onto the mat, going onto seated. Feeling the effects of that last one. Let's get into a butterfly position. So putting both feet together. And if your hips weren't awake after the last exercise, let's just take some gentle taps here. I'm going to get back up to standing in a second, but let's just loosen up those hips and get another nice shoulder release here. So let's put the left hand on the floor next to us, and let's, next to us or behind us, depending on how far your reach is. And let's start pushing into the right hip with the right hand. So maybe taking that shoulder twist here. And the further you walk your left hand back and around, the more that twist is gonna happen for you in your spine and upper back. So just choosing what feels okay here. Maybe moving it in closer to the body, leaning a little bit more forward. We're looking for some thigh opening, of course. Nice lengthening in the shoulder. Really actively pushing that right hip away. Maybe noticing that the left knee is coming up. So just really actively kind of pushing that left knee down as well. Just with some strength. Few breaths. If you want to add another neck stretch, you can go ahead and look over your left shoulder. Lengthening from ear to shoulder to hand and to knee in this case. Keeping the push active, even though we're seated. Pushing into that right knee. And making sure the left knee doesn't rise up too much. If your knees are much higher than mine, that's no problem. Releasing. And immediately turning the other side, left hand on left knee, right hand behind or next to you, pushing the shoulder away, opening up the chest to the side to to the right. So this is really the full body movement we're looking for. Thighs, hands, a twist for the spine. If you want to go ahead and add that neck stretch after you've moved that back arm around. I like to stay on fingertips. Then you can look over your right shoulder, really making sure the push is still active. Using your own body weight to create space in the body. Two breaths here. All right, release. Maybe another little wiggle. We're going to get back up to standing for our lovely Asian squat. So just kick some tension away if there is some. Let's get the feet nice and wide. If you're familiar with this movement and you need something like a wall or maybe even a block or a chair underneath, go ahead and set yourself up for that. We're going to widen the feet and we're going to bend the knees fully all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so let's start bending the knees, and if you're here and you want some hand support, you can just lean forward. It's no problem. Okay, if you want to lower the hips and you're already at a more advanced level when it comes to this, you can use the hands for support. Once you're there, big breaths. Okay, getting that lower back release, getting that thigh and ankle feeling. If you're against the wall, make sure your glutes and lower back are in contact with the wall to get the most out of that support. Okay? If you can release the hands, go ahead and push the knees outward, maybe wiggling side to side, getting that thigh stretch. If you're here, breathe and try to relax as much as possible in the hips. This can be such an intense pose for many, so you're not alone. Breathing, we're going to take 5 breaths here. If you need to come up and release at any time, just do so and then slowly go back down. And again, if you are more advanced in this pose, you can work on opening the knees as much as possible, pushing into the hands and fingers, maybe getting that side stretch from earlier. So just wherever you're at, 2 more big breaths. Using your body to support yourself, using those hands if you need to. This is a pose I've seen people grow into, so be patient. All right, hands on the knees, let's push ourselves up, hanging forward, keeping those hands on the knees and feet where they are, just getting a release. We're going to move back and forth through this a few times, okay? We're going to breathe in, and when we breathe out, we're going to lower again. Again, using the hands as you need, okay? Staying here for a second. Hands on the knees, pushing the glutes up, hamstrings. Hand back down. So really working through the knees and the ankles here with this one. Just moving at your own level. If you're still at the wall, that's fine. You can slide up and down the wall. Lengthen those hamstrings. Because we're bending the knees fully every time, we're strengthening them in a responsible way as well. Again, using the body weight. Last time, all the way down. Bending those knees. Let's get on to the glutes from here. Stretching out the knees, maybe tapping them out. Great job. Take a breath. Let's wiggle those ankles side to side, turning from the knees and the hips. Great job. That one got my heart rate going. Okay, let's go a little bit slower. Let's move both feet inwards, turning from the knees and the hips, internal rotation. So really moving those toes towards each other, keeping the legs stretched as much as possible and as much contact with the floor as you can. So we're working with hips, knees, and ankles here. Very connected as a chain. Let's go for the opposite, rotating the knees outward, turning in that hip as if you're turning in your shoulder joint, right? It's rotating to the outside. Maybe you're touching the floor with the side of your foot, maybe you're not. Hold it there for a second. Last time to the inside. And if this is quite easy for you, maybe you want to take it wider and pull the toes in towards you before you do it. Okay? You'll notice your knees lift up off the mat. Big breath to the outside. So just rotating here, using no muscle effort, just the joints, getting them nice and lubricated for the rest of the day or week. And relax. All right. I want to end in a happy baby pose with you guys today. Just for its full body benefits. We're going to get onto the back. Last one is a relaxing one, thankfully, after all the work we've done today. So just get comfortable on your back here. And start to fold the knees into the chest, pulling them in maybe slightly, getting some lower back release before we get into it. Wiggling left and right. And the last pose might be a little awkward, but it's so beneficial. I never skip it, even with a big group. Great one to do at home as well, but you know, sometimes we gotta look silly to get those good benefits. All right, we're gonna keep the knees in. We're gonna push them out to the side a little bit. Okay, so some people can reach their feet from here. We're gonna move the arms inward and reach for the feet, the outside of the foot. Maybe you're just reaching the ankles here. That's totally fine. We're gonna go for the feet here, or the ankles. And we're gonna move them up above the knees. Okay, so really getting that stretch on the inner thigh. Really getting that stretch on the inner thigh. This was a great one in the lower body mobility as well. So maybe rocking left to right, getting that spinal release. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna release the left foot. So we're just gonna bring that back down all the way, and we're gonna keep the right one where it is. So we're going for half happy baby, letting the left arm relax. If you're not able to stretch your arm and you're still kind of up here, might be a good sign that you want to take the ankle instead. And we're kind of actively pulling the hip open, breathing.